All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA show. So, what I'm going to talk about today is people that are never satisfied with what they get paid. And I've seen this across the board with people that make, obviously not a lot of money. I guess to some people, an okay amount of money, a substantial amount of money. It just seems like they're always complaining about how much money they're making or not making. They're also kind of always complaining about all their bills and how, they can't always afford to live the lifestyle they want to lead. And I'm here to tell you, I heard something the other day, and it was somebody talking about how the person a lot of times that makes $250,000 a year, that has a home, expensive cars, lives a certain lifestyle, is under a lot of stress, right? Sending kids maybe to private schools. They just, no matter how much money, and I've been there, how much money you make, you're just spending it no matter what. Or you're financing certain things to just kind of keep up with the Joneses. And then you have these other people that sometimes are only making $70,000, $80,000 a year that are living incredible lives. That doesn't mean they're driving new cars. That doesn't mean they're living in a gated community. That doesn't mean, they're traveling all over the world or anything. I'm not saying that. But they seem to be living a really amazing life. I don't want to say stress-free, but to a certain degree, enjoying, the money they make. They're enjoying their life with the money they're making at that point in time. They're not always bitching or complaining. And I definitely think I was in one of those positions where I kind of, no matter how much I made, it was never enough. Really. And I think a lot of people go through this. And then when you're not making that much too, then you're bitching, like I said earlier. And what's interesting, and the reason I bring this up too, is because of this last year. So this is probably the year I made the least amount of money, but I did the most things that I've ever wanted to do to a certain degree. And it may not have been career-wise, so I can't compare saying when I'm making a movie in a year how much I got accomplished or writing certain things or doing other things. But for the first time in probably 12, 13 years, because of COVID, I was able to stay home. So I did the least amount of traveling I've ever done, I think, in the last 30 years. I also got to spend the most amount of time with my friends, though on the flip side, which was wonderful, and family, at least in Florida. I also had a calmness about me that I always, again, I knew that I wasn't going to be making this type of money, but I still wanted to do certain things, and I made it work. Where I think before, a lot of times when you're making a certain amount of money, you're also spending a lot of money too, to a certain degree, and you're not thinking about those things. Because I just kind of thought, let me enjoy this year of my life being at home in Florida. And we're fortunate because everything opened up. And I had family coming to town. My daughters are adults now. I didn't have to always just squeeze them in and fit them in with my career or whatever I was doing. Because not only was I traveling a lot for work, I was always working on other things. So even when I was home, I was working. It was nonstop. And again, even if I was making money, I'm always spending money on my own shit. And I don't mean clothing or any of that. I mean kind of just different things, projects that I'm creating, and all the expenses that come along with it. And, I kind of found myself being happier with less for the first time in my life, and becoming self-aware that just learning not to stress myself out constantly over finances. Now, in the future, am I going to stress? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But what I am saying is, to a lot of people out there, just really pay attention to pay attention to just being kind of maybe frugal at times. And I think sometimes there's a difference between being cheap or frugal, in my opinion, or just not also being miserable that you don't have certain things. Because I think that makes a lot of us crazy. And I talked about on a previous podcast, possessions. I'm all about the experience, not possessions. And believe me, possessions make people happy. Don't get me wrong. But I'm about the experience. But when I'm telling people this is, I think just what's the word I'm kind of looking for? It kind of was frugal. Just for once in your life, maybe, or for a certain time, just sit down with your bills and say, what is kind of worth, what I'm paying for? Is this truly, it could be a home again. If you're house poor, does that house actually bring you happiness? or is it bringing you sadness? Now, I get a lot of people get certain homes because they always have the expectation they're going to make a lot of money. It's like a retirement type thing. Hey, if that's your plan, go for it. But if you got to stress for 20, 25 years of your life paying your mortgage and you're, you know what I mean, killing yourself, is it worth it? I don't know. I don't think it is. Same with having maybe, I used to do this too. I had a bunch of cars, all these big car payments and all these things. Was it really worth it? I mean, after a while, again, it's different if you're making millions of dollars. It's different when you're making a lot of money. But I do think people go throughout their life having good years and bad years. But again, they're always bitching either way a lot of times. And again, every decision you're making financially really falls on you. You don't got to go spend 50 grand on a car. You don't always have to get a new car. You don't always have to, if you go on vacation, you don't have to spend 10 grand, maybe spend 5. You don't maybe have to fly first class. Maybe you don't have to always have, a lot of people like to have date nights. I get it. Maybe kind of rearranging your date night where you don't spend $200 every time you go out for dinner. You add it up 4 times a month and times it by a year. Look where you're at. I had a buddy that was so cheap on date night. They used to do dollar movies. I know this sounds crazy. Bring their own snacks and then eat out at a fast food restaurant. And in like 1 year or whatever, I couldn't believe the money he banked. And what was funny is he said it was just something we did and we had fun trying all these cheap restaurants instead of always going high end. And he saved thousands upon thousands of dollars. So anyways, I'm just using that for an example. But, create the life that you want to enjoy. But here's the thing. It may not be what you thought it was. A lot of times, too, when it comes to doing certain things, experiencing it, just because it costs more money, right? It doesn't mean it's always going to be better. I'm just saying. So I just wanted to do a podcast because if you're somebody out there, and I don't care if you're low end, I don't care if if you're not making a lot of money, or if you're making a ton of money. Because I say this all the time. When I meet people, if I meet somebody that doesn't have a lot of money, they're under a lot of times I get stressed because they don't have any money and they work hard for their money. And then I meet a lot of people who are middle class or even upper middle class. They're very stressed too because of, I think, a certain standard of life that they're trying to keep up with that they can't. I do think no matter what we are in our life, there is a balance there. There's got to be something there, but we've been kind of programmed to buy, get in debt, or finance, with also doing a lot of these things because we want to be accepted by others. And if we don't, then we're the problem. You have nothing really to prove to anybody else. And I think I had to go through that as well. I always felt like I had to prove to everyone else that I'm making it or I'm living this certain lifestyle and doing all these things. Now I just live it. But I don't live it because of what I think everybody else is thinking of me or to impress them. I live the lifestyle I choose because I like it and I can afford it. Don't do things you can't afford, really, or put yourself in those positions. I don't think it's fair to you. I also don't think a lot of people realize when they spend a lot of money or do certain things, how the impact it has on their family members or friends or whoever it is because of the stress and the negativity. And it's always, you're upset again. It could be your paycheck. It could be your bills. It could be whatever the case may be. Try to get a hold of that. And it may not be immediate, but maybe look at a long-term plan in a year to say, you know what, I have to get rid of, I don't want a car payment anymore, especially one for $600-700. Or I don't want to have, I don't need this, whatever, this certain type of possession that costs me this much money. I don't need to go to all these places. I don't need to do all these things. I can figure out another way on how to do it and become creative. And the more creative you become with your money, you'd be shocked at how far it'll go instead of just spending it. All right, that's all I got for you today. If you want to check out my program, Mastering Self-Confidence, I actually help men live an extraordinary life, affordable. That's why I do these podcasts a lot of times. I'm also on all the social media platforms. My God, I'm putting out a new blog on WordPress. Well, actually, I've had it for 12 years. I just haven't really added a lot of stuff, so I've been putting stuff out on there. You can find me at richcelenza.com, and I got a lot of stuff going on. So I wish everyone nothing but the best.